My Lord, slightly Lord Coker, I refer to a non-financial interest. I'm a trustee of the Arise Foundation, which works for modern-day victims of human trafficking and modern-day slavery. My Lords, like the noble Baroness Hamwe, I too wish Part 5 was not in this bill at all. And as the noble Lord Coker told the House, it is odd to put issues concerning immigration and human trafficking together in this way, as though they are part and parcel of the same problem. They are not. And that is why my noble and learned friend, Lady Butler-Sloss, was right to be as passionate as she was, and reinforced by the remarks of my noble friend, Lady Prasher, to say that this is something that the government really does need to recast and rethink all over again. My noble and learned friend referred to the Salvation Army. They are, as she said, the advisors to the government on this issue. This is what the Salvation Army say. The Salvation Army has held the government's modern slavery victim care and coordination contract for over 10 years. In that time, we've supported 15,000 survivors of modern slavery. We, along with our colleagues across the anti-slavery sector, and with all of us, seen reams of representations from pretty well every representative group that there is, we would urge you to ensure that vulnerable survivors of trafficking and slavery are not prevented from accessing the support that they deserve. My Lords, it's hard to see how many of the measures that we are debating very briefly in the context of such an important set of provisions will enable that to happen. I don't want to preempt what I'm going to say on my own Amendment 156A on the national referral mechanism, but simply to reinforce what the noble Lord Coker said in his curtain-raising remarks for the whole of this section. My noble friend Lord Hilton and I, with the noble Baroness Lady Butler-Sloss, Baroness Hamwe, working with Lord Coker, who was in another place at that time and doing incredibly energetic, hard-working things to help get the 2015 legislation onto the statute books. All of us paid tribute then as that came through on a bipartisan basis, bicamerally, through both houses. We paid tribute to the Right Honourable Theresa May for what Lady May did in working for this legislation to happen. However the history books judge her period as Prime Minister or Home Secretary, I believe this is her most lasting legacy and something she should be enormously proud of, which is why I too quoted her remarks at second reading, and I was glad to hear the noble Lord refer to them again today. I would urge the noble and learned Lord to go back and see what she had to say about this. The Right Reverend Prelate, the Bishop of Bristol, and I go back a long way. She was once a curate in what was then the Liverpool Mossley Hill constituency, so we also have something in common with the noble and learned Lord. Those two cities, Bristol and Liverpool, they have something in common, their knowledge of the transatlantic slave trade. In 2015, we saw this as a way of cleansing some of the past and doing something positive, not breaking down monuments or trying to cancel history, but doing something positive. And my worry is that what we're doing now is undoing so much of that good work. What are these imaginary windmills that, like Don Quixote, that we're being encouraged to tilt at today? There is no data. Where is the justification? And knowing that the noble and learned Lord has a forensic brain, I hope he will take us through what the justifications are for what we have here. Why, as the noble Lord Henley said to the House, are we disregarding what our own Joint Committee on Human Rights has said to us? I have one more thing to say, and that is on Amendment 154G, which was referred to by the noble Lord Coker, fear of repercussions from people who exercise control over the person. Certainly through the work that I've been privileged to be involved with the Arise Foundation, we have seen many, many examples of that. And why children are being treated no differently as well in this legislation beggars belief. This Amendment 154 also refers to victims of trauma. If you have been traumatised, then of course the statements you're going to make, and even possibly the untruths you may feel you have to tell to prevent you being sent back from where you came, that should not then be held against you. This section also deals with people with diminished capacity, and I was struck by what the Lady Hamwe said before in the example, one of the examples that she gave the House about people with diminished responsibility. We have all seen cases like that, and the noble Lord McColl, whom we will hear from later on, no one has done more in your Lordship's House to draw to our attention the need to do more to help vulnerable people in that situation. So these amendments that we have, well, they're good, but you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I wish this was not in this bill at all. There is still time for the government to recast. And given the concerns that have been echoed, not just here, but right across the sector, I do hope that the noble learned Lord would take this back to the Home Office, take it back to the government and say, let's think again.